It is time for NBA free agency. So here we are. We're going to talk about some of the transactions that have concluded thus far. We are in day 2 of free agency. By the time you hear this, it'll probably be already like day 5 or 6. But we're going to get through the transactions we have seen thus far. Let's get to that intro music. I am your co-host, Keoni McKeague, and with me, as always, are my longtime friends and co-hosts, Nolan Tcheng, there's Shirai. Say what's up to the pod, boys.
Happy free agency, everybody.
How's it, brother?
I really thought about holding out the time, like how he does, but I was like, oh, I'm gonna like jack up my voice for this pod if I do that. So I decided to say
it's time.
It is it. I know that was the like more appropriate way of saying it, I guess. Sorry.
You tried. It's okay.
I know.
We'll try again next time.
I thought about it like right before the timer went off, so I was like,
we'll let you try again when NFL season starts. Then you can
we'll try again. All right. Anyway, here we are. But yes, like I said, it is day 2 of free agency. For those who are caught up with us, we're going to be going through some of the transactions that did occur as of today, which is July 1st. So for anybody who's like, why are the transactions so behind?
Why did they talk about this guy?
Yeah, exactly.
On July 1st, man.
This is the day we recorded it. So we're going to be talking about some of the things that did happen. A lot of big moves, a lot of small moves. If you're a Bulls fan, a lot of one move. And then, thankfully we made that one move. So, great. Spitting it over to you first. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go over to you first, Nolan. Obviously, we're going to start here with the Lakers because I feel like just, it makes sense. So obviously the Lakers make a ton of moves. They do basically.
I'll keep it short and sweet.
Yeah, they re-signed a lot of the guys that they should have re-signed. Austin Reeves gets a big deal. Rui Hachimura gets a big deal. They do retain D'Lo. They retain
Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt was technically already there, but right? Yeah, okay. I was okay.
Extended maybe. It was something before free agency was able to hit, but I think they extended him.
Gotcha. And then they go out and they sign Cam Reddish. They signed Taurean Prince. Like, they got a lot of different. They also got Jackson Hayes from New Orleans. Like, a lot of young dudes, a lot of great role players. Throwing it over to you. Thoughts on the Lakers' moves thus far?
First, I gotta give props to Rob Pelinka.
Yeah.
A lot of the times during the season, he has. I'm not going to say he has the hardest job in the NBA, but he gets scrutinized a lot just based off of what he does or what he has. And, time in and time out, he makes good moves, sans the Westbrook edition. But, that's not neither here nor there, right? But I love the fact that we overall didn't go for, like, a star. And even if they did and it didn't come to, like, to light or, like, they're trying to get into the Dame sweepstakes or whatever it is. But
yeah.
I love that they retained a lot of the role guys that produced for us. We got rid of a few guys, Mo Bamba, just crappy luck for him, ankle sprain right when he got traded over and was never able to actually take the court for us. Malik Beasley, he did well during the regular season, and then come playoff time, he just got moved to the bench.
2 big surprise waves by them, by the way. Like they were still under contract, so they literally just had to like eat that money and let them walk. So I was like, that's...
and I really don't know how far we are above the cap, if any, or whatever it may be. But I'm glad that Reeves got paid. Obviously, you might be undervaluing him, but I think, like I talked to you guys off the pod, the fact that they offered him right when free agency hit, but took a whole day to really get him to sign means that, yes, he was probably humoring some of the offers that he had, but he loves the Laker organization. I think we've treated him very well, so I'm glad to have him back. I'm glad to have Rui back. He showed out the last half of in the playoffs for us. The big, I wouldn't say dark horse, but the big signing that I actually really liked was the Taurean Prince, because he is a vet. He's 29, still got some youth in him, and he is, I guess you could say, the 3-and-D player that we've really been looking for. Like, we love Vanderbilt, but he is just the defense, right? You have someone of the same build, but can extend out to the wing. He can get you that corner shot, whatever he needs. And I think he did pretty well against us in the play-in game when we played the Wolves. So I give credit to all that. And the only thing I'm keeping my fingers crossed is that all these players that we've signed, Gabe Vincent, who else did we get? We got Jackson Hayes. These guys that are role guys may have done minimal success on their teams. Gabe Vincent probably the most success on the previous team he was on. A lot of the time when you come to the Lakers, everything kind of drops in efficiency, in production.
It's the spotlight.
Yeah, it's the spotlight, or it's just sometimes they're looking to defer to Anthony Davis and LeBron James or whatever it may be. So I'm hoping that these guys have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and we have this good role group that we had hoped in the second half when we made the trades that we wanted to have this team for a full season to see what we could really do with this full team. And I think having this group starting from the beginning of the season, it's going to pay off. We still have Max Christie, who I'm assuming is probably going to get a little more minutes this season. I know they were kind of holding out on him just because he's young, playoff time. I wouldn't necessarily trust a rookie to just come in and start lighting it up. But I do feel that there's going to be some minutes to spread around. I don't mind the D'Lo signing. He was good in regular season for us, but it's a matter of him showing up, because I assume if he doesn't produce, but come trade deadline time, he might be on the chopping block already. But overall, I would give Lakers an A on this offseason.
Yeah, I'd agree with that take as well. I was like, hell of an offseason for them. A lot of guys that I was like, how did you guys get them on that deal? Like, I don't even understand. Like, Gabe Vincent was one of those. I was like,
I heard that
he had to be a big shooter.
Miami offered him 4 years, 34. We offered the 3 years, 33. So I think he was like, oh yeah, I'll jump to the money.
Yeah, that was one. That was one. Honestly, not even just based on money, but based on the fact that he had a team that I thought he was going to be, sticking with. Like, I was very surprised with that one.
It's just a matter of who's starting now, because I would want Gabe to start, but at the same time, you have D'Lo
making bigger money. Yeah, I was like, kind of one of those toss-up moments. Throwing it over to you, Jared. Going to just go straight into the guys that you wanted to talk about today. Obviously, the Dallas Mavericks. They not only go out and draft possibly the future center for their team with Derek Lively at the number 10 spot, or no, maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it was a little bit later. But anyway, they got Derek Lively. Then they go out, they find, they trade for Richaun Holmes, I believe. And then on top of that, they get Seth Curry, another guy added to their group. And they end up re-signing Kyrie Irving to his big max extension, whatever it might be.
I think it was like 156 or something around there.
Yeah, I mean, it was some, it was money. Some money. Yeah, but throwing it over to you. Obviously, they go and make those moves. One, do you like the moves for the Dallas Mavericks, like in general? And two, do you expect that they're going to do more, or maybe possibly there's a trade on the front there, considering that they haven't really come up with like a replacement for Christian Wood there in their starting lineup?
I feel like they're gonna do a little more. We talked about a lot of the depth that they had lost in the trades and everything, and this is a little bit of replacing. Maybe it's not the I don't think it's the big picture of everything. I mean, getting Seth is amazing, because we talked about get Luka a shooter, and Seth really just does a job in the minutes that he's allowed to do. And we know what you're getting with him, right? Same thing with Holmes. Holmes is a great shooter as well as a great defensive player. I hope he spread the floor a little bit. But I do think they do need to find that help, or that Christian Wood kind of replacement-ish to. But we said we kind of want somebody that you can run the ball through as well. And so I think that might be what they're kind of looking at. We talked about like the Draymond, and Draymond re-signed, so it's not going to happen there.
You said
but
they
at the
got
same
Lively,
time,
correct?
They got Lively.
Yeah, Derek Lively.
I was really hoping he'd drop to 17 for the Lakers.
Yeah.
Because I feel like
Same for us.
His upside is Brook Lopez. Like that couldn't be his upside. And if they can develop him well enough, I think That could be really
That's
good
their
for
future
the
center.
Mavs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That
yeah.
exactly.
that could be like their burden piece. But I mean, you still kind of want a
Mm,
veteran to come in and help mold him into that as well. So
yeah.
I think that's where I am with it as far as that goes. But
And in all
I mean,
fairness to
I'm
them, they did try to go really hard after DeAndre Ayton as well. So I
yeah,
mean, yeah,
yeah.
apparently it just didn't, make sense for both teams when they
Mhm.
tried to make the transaction happen. So
Yeah. So for me, I mean, I'm happy with, like, at least we put it out in the world and said, hey, let's get Luca a little bit of his depth back, a little bit of shooters,
hmm
and I think they're really kind of going after that. They know what they missed. They missed the playoffs. They missed, you know, the
hmm
expectations that is it should be high for them because of how great a run they
yeah,
had the year before, and I think they're just trying to get to that standard again and going after the players that they did. I think they're in a they're setting themselves up for success and
hmm
going down the right path. So
yeah,
I'm happy with what they're doing.
I agree with that.
yeah. I'm throwing it over to you, Noel. Obviously, there was a team that spent a good amount of the cap space that they had wide open for this offseason, that being the Houston Rockets, who did go out and offer Fred Van Vliet a pretty large deal. Then they go out and get Dylan Brooks on a 4-year, $80 million for what? No, nobody understands. But they do sign him to that deal. Then obviously they've been gauging interest on a lot of different big name guys
Yeah,
thus far. So those two at the core of what they're trying to do with their new
what they're
team,
building. Yeah.
and yeah, and all of the young guys they obviously already have. But throwing it over to you, what do you think about the Rockets going out and getting FVV, Dylan Brooks?
Um. Overall, I was definitely okay with the FEV signing. I think that was
Mm-hmm.
completely fine. He's a good producer for what his role is. He's
Mm-hmm.
a decent defender, more of a systematic defender. Little undersized, but he's a great shooter. But you know, overall, with this young group, I really would have just wanted to see them stick with the young guys.
Yeah.
I understand it. FEV, that can be a good veteran presence, someone who's been
Mm-hmm.
to got a chip. So it could be something very very beneficial for the young guys, especially Jalen Green and do they still have KPJ?
They do.
Okay, I think
Mm-hmm.
that'll be very beneficial for them because they are a little bit egotistical right now, and
Mm-hmm.
with the coach Udoka, I feel like that's going to be easily spread and make sure that it's kept at bay. Um, the Dylan Brooks signing, I don't like it.
mm-hmm.
I don't mind him signing with a team, but for 20 mil a year,
Yeah.
this guy was
Yeah.
averaging maybe 14, 3 and 3 when Morant was off the court. And you want to develop your young guys to be quote unquote stars or elite level. Having him there, you're paying him to be strictly a 3 and D guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of money in your cap space to give away for that, especially if you're trying to build youth. And I don't understand why they didn't just play it safe. Maybe they do 1 year for 15. Okay. All right. That at least you only have it for a contract, maybe 2 years, one in a player option. I don't know, whatever. But it just seems like they're handcuffing themselves for the foreseeable future if they don't end up able to move him or they see a big agent like we talked about Jalen Brown next season. He's a
Mm-hmm.
free agent. He would fit nicely onto your roster, and you know that he loves Udoka. I don't know how that's going to work now. Like, who are you going to have to trade away? Who are you going to have to waive in order to get someone like that for the next offseason? But overall, he could show out and prove us wrong, but I don't see that happening. Um,
Yeah.
so, good luck to them. It's still rebuilding year. I don't expect them to really push into the playoffs, maybe flirt with the play in.
Yeah.
But I think it was, I give their free agency maybe like a C plus.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's so funny to me because I was like, who are they bidding against? Like, that's the
Who
thing.
else was
Like, I was
offering
like,
him, right? Like,
there's nobody who was offering him
yeah,
4 years and 80 mil.
yeah.
Like, there's no way he was getting that much money on the open market. So, like, for me, I was just like, that to me just seemed like a complete L. So you have all this cap space, and just because you have it doesn't mean you have to spend it. So I don't know. I was like, I look at it like for us with Chicago, I'm like, Kobe White, I think, is a better overall player than Dylan Brooks. we got him on 3 years, 33
Yeah, that was a
mil.
good contract. That was a really
exactly. It was a perfect contract, but I was like, Dylan Brooks getting paid 20 mil a year? That's insane. Anyway, I'm throwing it over. Dude, it's like, I was like, what are they doing? They're so stupid. I tweeted about it. I mean, for all my Twitter users, amidst all the drama going on Twitter, because now apparently they're limiting how many tweets you can read in a day, depending on what tier of Twitter user you are. So, at one point, I think like amid all the big news, like I wasn't able to read half the tweets because it was like blocked. But yeah, anyway, going over there, it was hilarious reading all the people talking about the Dylan Brooks signing. But swinging it over to you, Jared. I mean, we got a few teams that made like some pretty substantial upgrades, but there were some big name teams who have been heavily rumored for trades that haven't been able to make a lot of big moves because of all of these smaller transactions happening around the league. I'm assuming whether it's to preserve cap space or to preserve the ability to be able to trade pieces in those trade pieces. But some of those teams include the Chicago Bulls, include the Philadelphia 76ers, include the Portland Trailblazers, the Miami Heat. A lot of these teams who have been rumored to be a part of big trades. Brooklyn Nets actually are one of those teams that are very active right now, but in dumping salary in order to possibly take a big swing somewhere. So I'm just curious for you, what is it? I guess we'll get to the Dame situation eventually, but in general, is there something that you feel like with these big teams, like there's going to be like some major move in the next couple of days, whether it be James Harden, Dame Lillard, Zach Levine? Zach Levine's been another name that's been thrown around a ton out there recently, that will be made in the next couple of days.
I mean, whether it's the next couple of days or for sure within the next week, I think everybody's trying to put all their eggs in the right baskets. And I guess you would say, put all your ducks in a row and make sure everything's all good so that when you offer these trades, they have something great to come to. So I think that's why everybody's going with those little pieces first. So they make sure they bring in the trade bait as well as, hey, we're going to take a big swing. And I know, like we said, Dame was like when the Dame news came out, it's like, there you go. And that's the big swing I think everybody's kind of looking at right now. James Harden's kind of the same thing. That's probably going to be a signing trade. You already know. Like they're going to use that for that. But I really think it'll be within the next week because even though all these little ones don't seem as meaningful as that Dame trade, it's the behind the scenes to get the big picture. Exactly, Nolan.
Right on.
And so, like, that's what I really think it's come down to in this regard. You know, and they're doing it the right way. They're trying to dump money, they're trying to save money, and they're trying to package something to where, hey, okay, I'm okay giving you this. Yeah.
Yeah, if they don't make a move, then at least they can still hold on to some things.
They're playing chess. They're literally playing chess right now. They're setting up their big win. And hopefully it just comes through, and at the end of the day it'll just be wherever offers the best package. And
it's crazy how many teams right now are kind of like teetering on that line of like competing and or just, completely rebuilding. Because you look at like the 76ers, they only really went out and got Patrick Beverly. They let like some of their key contributors like Gorgeous
Niang.
It is Georges, right? Okay, so it's Georges Niang. So I'm like, they let him go. I mean, they let a few other smaller pieces go. I think whatever McDaniel's brother they have on their team, he's kind of like in limbo at the moment until they figure out what their situation with James Harden is. It's like weird because even us, we're on that same like, do we just send out Zach Levine and then just blow it all up? Like, I mean, there's so many weird things. But I'm going to throw it back to you, Jared. Who do you think right now, if we're looking at both James Harden and Dame Lillard, who do you think each of those teams or each of those guys looks best with as far as like a team that could offer like a pretty comparable package and also be able to, contend, which ideally would be the situation for both guys?
I think it would be kind of crazy that we talk about those two guys, that if they just swapped and Dame went to go play with the Sixers.
I feel like the money would work that way too.
I think the money works. I think the situation works. James Harden getting
Portland would be weird.
Harden and Portland would seem weird, but I feel like with the way he's playing the game now, it'd be more
like a point guard.
comparable.
Yeah,
it'd be more comparable.
Grant.
You know, And so I think in that regard, and then Dame goes that, but I mean,
he got paid. He's fine.
I was like, man.
But Dame goes that way, and he gets to work with a notable big man. He works with people around him who the system works. I mean, we talked about the Sixers being the sleeper team at the beginning of the year this past year, and they're not a championship team, but they're built for a good playoff run.
Good run.
And to throw Dame straight into there, a scorer, facilitator, that's not James Harden. Like, I think it works pretty well for me, in all honesty.
I think so too.
Yeah, I was like, if it's not that, I mean, you just played out a scenario in which it could be a 3-teamer with Miami, which I mean, if they were interested in all those pieces, that's the only thing with Miami right now is like you got Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Kyle Lowry, Jovic, and some future first and seconds, but it's like
or cash considerations or something,
it's like, are those guys moving the needle for you?
Did I share it with you guys? Like they were talking about the interested teams and everything. The one that I saw that kind of blew my mind was possibly the Spurs.
Oh yeah,
him and Victor. I saw the Spurs on now, and I was like, him and Victor. I was like, dude, that'd be kind of crazy too, because then you have a 1 and a 5, and that's youth as well as like being able to spread. Victor can handle the ball as well. Dame doesn't always have to have the ball in his hands, so I mean, that would be a very interesting. And to play under Pop, I mean, that's even better, right? It's
talk about a way to accelerate that dude's career.
Exactly. You're going to accelerate the youth in his career, and you're going to accelerate Dame's career as well, because he'll get to play for an amazing head coach, right?
Not that I want this to happen, but is there any way, do you think, that those two could possibly team up in Miami and make that work?
Who?
Both Dame and James Harden. Like, there was a scenario that somebody was playing out, and I was like,
it's going to be the Suns.
Yeah.
You're giving up a lot to have a top-heavy team.
Yeah, they don't really have a lot to give up, which is what's funny,
But then you have a small backcourt like we were talking about with him and, what you call it?
Simons,
yeah. No, not Simons. Who they just draft? Fuck.
Oh,
are we talking about the Heat?
They got Scoot.
No, yeah. If Dame and Scoot were to stay, like we were talking about the small backcourt, it's kind of like him and Harden in a small backcourt, and you got a guy who doesn't play defense. So I mean, like,
I mean, he technically was a shooting guard for a majority of his career. So I was just throwing it out there because I was like thinking about it. I was just like, I mean, sure, on paper it looks great. You get a bunch of names on your team, but I'm like, for the Miami Heat to do that, that'd be kind of a big swing that I'm not entirely sure would pan out, much like we're talking about the Phoenix Suns.
But it'd be interesting because we always talk about Spoelstra and how he's great at managing egos and getting everybody to buy into it.
That is very true.
And you got Jimmy Butler there, who's an established alpha, who will force people to buy into the situation as well as offense and defensively. And it'll help. Like we said, we don't want Jimmy taking 30, 40 shots. And so you got Damon and Harden to help him out. I think that'll really alleviate that. I think they could make it work. Given Spoelstra's reputation.
And it's not like Harden can't knock down the three. Like if it were like a situation where Jimmy has the ball and he just like chucks it out to either of those two guys, like they're gonna knock down the three regardless.
And I mean, he's been a better team player, especially in Philadelphia as well. So I mean, his ego has changed a lot as well to accommodate the teams that he's played on. So I think
ironically, he's slowly unlocking kind of like a better part of him as his game ages, which is pretty crazy. But throwing it over to you, Nolan. I mean, is there a spot? Obviously, we mentioned the two that we already talked about, but there's still Brooklyn out there, which is another possible team. Like, is there a team out there you think that fits for Dame, a team that fits for Harden, or a team that fits for both?
Honestly, at this point, I think the two teams in the running right now, Sixers and Heat, make the most sense.
And Clippers. Supposedly the Clippers are another team that's there to land, not Dame, but to land Harden, because I think one thing I haven't really gotten into with what we've been talking about through this conversation is that, like, there have been a lot of guys who are like Harden, for instance, who had like a great career or had a great year last year, but has also kind of been on like the, tail end of like that kind of thing where like, do we pay him like, a big chunk of money on his next contract kind of deal, and they've been getting traded for like next to nothing kind of deals. So I mean, I don't know if he's going to be one of those guys, but I'm just putting that out there that it could be one of those situations where the Clippers end up landing him because there's not a huge market for him, and essentially they give up like Zubac and like Norman
Terrence
Powell.
Mann, Bones Hyland,
something like weird like that. Yeah.
I mean that'd be a fine fit. I think maybe the signing, and we'll kind of get into it right now. I guess the signing of Westbrook for 2 years, $7.8 million, could be just to leave some room to make something happen. Reuniting those two guys, you have Kawhi coming off injury, PG who seemingly is healthy by the start of season. That's a nice roster. And you at least have Harden and Westbrook in the event that those two, when they get injured again. So it would be a nice piece.
KJ Martin though. I mean, they do have like a nice little backup, forward guy. Yeah. So I mean, at least it doesn't.
But once again, it's just one of those where you're giving up all the role guys, and all of a sudden you gotta dig at scraps, right? So it could be a nice fit. I would prefer Dame going to Sixers, honestly, because I feel like the Heat already have been losing some of their identity just based off of people leaving, signings, and
they'll probably sign like a bunch of undrafted guys, and they'll be all stars.
Somehow do great.
They'll probably get paid like Gabe.
If it's the Harden for Dame outright, you got Maxey, Tobias Harris still there, Embiid still there. That's still a nice roster, and you have someone who can just light it up from outside. He's not the facilitator that Harden was, but I don't doubt that he's going to give up some passes. Because
I would foresee in that scenario, no matter what, it would probably be a 3-teamer because I just can't imagine Portland would be sold on the idea of just bringing in James Harden in order to like.
I mean, you
kind
never
of
know.
compete. Like I feel like they would want to like just move him somewhere and like coop some pieces back. Yeah. Oh, that was it. Gotcha.
Yeah, that was
it. But yeah, so I mean,
keep going, bro. What are you talking about?
I know. We'll see what happens with that. The kind of next things I want to get into is some of the big extensions because obviously, like, I want to say that is LaMelo like this might be LaMelo's year, like as far as like that draft class. This is when they're like extension eligible, so that's why a lot of them just signed their big max extension. So we got LaMelo Ball just signed one, Desmond Bane another one, Sabonis signed one, I believe Tyrese Halliburton also signed his. All young foundational pieces for their teams. But throwing it over to you, Nolan, of all of these, is there any that kind of stood out to you or were surprising to you in any whatever way, whether it's negative or positive?
The main standout is for two, and for good reasons. It's Bane and Halliburton. Halliburton obviously is their centerpiece that they're trying to build around. So extending him makes sense, and he is now an all-star. He produces very, very well. He's a great shooter. His percentages, I believe, from the three are closer to Steph's than people realize.
Yeah.
And Desmond Bane, I think it was a smart move to do a max extension with him in case they have to leave Morant. And I think, someone who's been year in and year out producing for you guys, he was there. He does a great job slashing plus shooting. He's a great body defender as well. So I think that it was a smart business decision to make sure that they signed him to retain him in case they have to trade away Morant or release him.
I was just about to say, do you think that there's a scenario where they just go off for like those 26 games that he's suspended for or whatever, and they just decide to move off? Like, I was like, I'd almost imagine like, could you get a guy like Jaylen Brown or what I mean, like some name that could like slide in, because I mean you got Marcus Smart who's also there that could back up Desmond Bane or play alongside Desmond Bane. Yep. I mean, I just foresee a scenario where we may actually see John Morant on a different team by the end of this season already.
Wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
It's his own fault.
I mean, we talked about it when that one season, was it 2 seasons ago, when he was out. Yeah. And their record was better without him than it was with him. Right? Yeah. And then we talked about like the playoff runs, and it's like, dude, they were killing it without him. They don't need him. You
Yeah.
know, so I think little by little he's showing that it's great because he was the face of their team,
Yeah.
but little by little each of their players is showing that they don't need him.
Yeah.
You know,
Like I
to
just
be
feel like at a
successful.
certain point, if you're at a point where you're gonna compete without him, and you're just maybe one like solid 3-and-D wing or like a solid star player in the middle or whatever, like maybe you get a
Or
guy
like you said,
like
a
Paul
Jalen Brown.
George. Yeah, Jalen Brown, Paul George. These are some of the names that you could go out and potentially trade a John Morant for because
Yep.
he's a big star that could get you a big time player. And I think if you get a guy like that on this team with JJJ and Desmond Bain playing at the level that they've been playing at, like, I mean, you could really make some noise with this Grizzlies team. Like,
Yep.
that's why it's hard for me to imagine that they're gonna. I'm just putting it into the universe. If this is if this isn't like one of those things that ends up being true in the future, I called it. John Morant getting traded before the end of the season.
You heard it here
Anyway,
first.
sorry.
Poi N Soy.
Yeah. Back to you, sir. That was it. Those
Yeah,
are the
those
two
are the
guys.
only
who
two
responded.
Oh
spots.
yeah,
Okay,
you know.
gotcha.
Oh, you forgot about the Derrick Rose action over there.
Oh, the Guns N'
Oh
Roses.
yeah. No, the Guns N' Roses. Yeah, I was like, I did think it was a great signing for them to go and get him. I know there was a lot of rumors. There's always rumors every single year. He's a free agent to come back to the Chicago Bulls. I would love for him to retire with us, but I do feel like it's past that point where like we could really like afford having him on this team.
I mean, it could just be
With
when he's really done, kind of how Paul Pierce did it. He just traded over, or signed over, and
Yep.
they just
Yeah, it's like what I like we really have nothing that like to surround him with. Like I don't think he would fit with this team, which is just unfortunate. But on top of that, I also think that he'd be a great mentor for John Morant. To kind of straighten this dude out and help him fix his career because his trajectory right now is basically going out of the league. So it'll be very interesting. I mean, Jared, for you, anybody on that list that kind of stands out, positive or negative?
I mean, like you said, Sabonis. I think that was the one that we were like, oh,
Yeah.
but I think it's well deserved. You know,
Oh yeah.
the Kings, the way they had a great season, best finish in a long time. Not saying it was just Sabonis, but he is a big part of that team.
Yep.
And for him to get that, I think that's one of I'm super happy for that. Ball, of course. I mean, even though he's been kind of injury ridden, it's nice to see because I mean, LaMelo's kind of in the face of that team, and you know,
he is now. Yeah.
they want to keep him around. You know, hopefully he doesn't end up like his brother, where
Knock on wood.
it's the injury, like the injury takes a toll in the longest time. But I mean, for what he's done in the time that he's done it, LaMelo deserved to get that paycheck. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And now they're under new management. I mean, who knows what they end up doing? Actually, they're another team that's been very quiet lately too. Like, I don't even think they've retained like their own guys. Like PJ Washington is still kind of afloat somewhere. They definitely haven't. I don't know what's going on with Miles Bridges, right? It's Miles Bridges. Yeah, it's like
I heard they extended a qualifying offer.
I think I say they offered, right?
Yeah, I think just to make him a restricted free agent, like they're not gonna like not. But I was like, I'm not sure what's happening on that front as far as if anybody went to sign him. But
Maybe they might be gearing up too for a big swing at something, and then from there, if they do get it, then they'll go get out the small pieces after.
They do have a lot of doo-doo contracts that they have to get off of. Like,
that's why maybe they're getting rid of all the other stuff. You know, they're doing it the opposite way, where everybody's building up their resume, and they're just going to take a swing to get it, and then if not, like that could be why they've been so quiet.
Yeah. Like I was like trying to think, I was like, I can't even imagine like where Terry Rozier or Gordon Hayward, like I mean Gordon Hayward probably more than Terry Rozier, but I was like Terry Rozier, I'm like he's one of those like I'm not sure where he fits now. Like
Terry Rozier going to Boston.
Back to Boston.
Yeah, well, I mean they just got rid of Marcus Smart, so I mean it would be a nice little fit there, you know. So I'm just kind of thinking like
off the second unit, that'd be nice.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to think of who left from where and like what kind of pieces left. You know, I thought Pat Bev was going to end up in Boston. To be honest, I thought that would have been a great thing to take that Marcus Smart role and just run with it, whether it was a starting or it was a secondary coming off the bench. I thought that would have been it. Yeah. But I mean, if they're trying to unload like little pieces, even like dude, honestly, even like Gordon Hayward going back to somewhere like that.
Honestly, Gordon
'Cause he's
Hayward
not.
would probably be. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It'd be ironic if they end up like
I know
sending
they're gonna
Jaylen
send both of
Brown
them
to
there, and Jaylen Brown comes
yeah.
there. Yeah, it's like, I mean, you never
Tatum would
know.
be pissed.
Yeah,
I
he'd
was
be
like,
like,
if
"Bro, I
I were
got
him,
rid of
I'd be
you guys
pissed.
already. What the
Yeah,
heck?"
Rematch.
exactly. I know it's so funny
But
because now the other trend I kind of wanted to bring up that I thought was like an interesting talking point is I think this year, this offseason specifically, has been pretty prevalent for international stars like signing like pretty solid contracts. I'm not going to go through the list of names because
why
it's a
not?
lot of names I can't pronounce. But there were a few big name like EuroLeague stars that ended up getting
Yeah,
signed
like the
in
EuroLeague
this
MVP,
offseason.
right?
Yeah,
Didn't he just sign
I
with
mean,
someone?
there was like Vasily Micic or something. Like there
Yeah,
was a few other names. I
Wait,
was like, I'm
what?
not even going to try to
No, no,
pronounce
no,
them.
no,
But
no.
yeah,
Vasiljevic.
him. So anyway, there's a few like got signed. He got signed to the Thunder. There was that dude that you're talking about. He got signed somewhere else. But I mean, I think the thing I kind of want to bring up that I'm gonna throw over to you, Nolan, is like, do you think that now because of the success of guys like Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, trying to think of like other itches who came over that had like successful, but I mean, there's been a lot more successful, you know, international stars that teams are like actually looking at the
Yeah,
international market for players that they can bring in, as opposed to like where before it was like, maybe you bring them in on like a vet min deal. They don't really get playing time. Like we saw with that guy who went to the Clippers, that point guard, Milos Teodosic. You
oh
guys
yeah,
remember him? Yeah, he like played for them for a little while. Was a big star in EuroLeague. Came over and they didn't really play him. Didn't really give him the shot that he needed.
yeah.
And there's a few guys like that. But now we're kind of seeing guys that like are more prevalent role players. Like, what do you think about the addition of international stars to like NBA
I
teams
think
now?
it's just the NBA's way of acknowledging that the EuroLeague is not that far behind in
Yeah.
talent. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, Euro players come over here. Sometimes they're hit or miss. More times
Mm-hmm.
miss half the time, but you do get these gems. And I think, especially with I don't know his name. I forgive me, but the one who is a EuroLeague MVP, that's
Mm-hmm.
obviously a smart signing, right? Because the
Mm-hmm.
EuroLeague is vast,
I know
and for
Jared's looking it up. Go, Jared. You got this.
for someone who
What is the
is
EuroLeague MVP's guy's name?
yeah, for someone who is I guess you could say, elite player overseas,
Mm-hmm.
fitting in here could be absolutely fantastic for him as an
Actually,
individual.
shout out to Nikola Mirotic, who also won like an
Mirotic.
MVP. Yeah, I was like, my
Forgot
boy.
about
I was
him.
like, yeah, I know. I was like, it's
Yeah, that
funny
was
because
last
everybody's
year.
like, bring him
So he
back.
won. He won that last year, and then Sasha Vezinov,
Vezina?
Vezenikov,
Yes.
Vezenikov,
Sasha V.
Sasha Verdansk.
Sasha Verdansk. There you go.
Yeah, there we
But yeah,
go.
Bulgaria.
I think it's a
Bulgaria.
great pool for NBA to pull from, especially if, there's certain years where maybe the draft class isn't that strong. I feel like this
Yeah.
draft class was very top heavy, so you got to kind of look elsewhere. And I think
Mm-hmm.
EuroLeague is a great place to look. You get these gems. It could pay off, and you don't have to pay them as much as you would expect to just to start
Mm-hmm.
off. And then if they seem to produce and be efficient, then you can extend them for a little more.
Yeah, I think kind of on the like tandem to what you just said too. It's getting to a point where, like you said, they're catching up. I think like the NBA needs to slowly realize that like these are guys that maybe you need to give them a little more run, like you do with a lot of like the kind of G League guys, younger guys in the NBA. Like let them get in there, get more than like
Yep.
5 minutes to really prove their worth, because I feel like that's the biggest thing with all of these international guys. Like once you give them some minutes and you let them actually work their way into a system, like they can ball. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm even looking at like our international or our Team USA team, which I think I'd like to get you guys' reactions on, seeing the kind of young FIBA World, or yeah, it's the FIBA World Cup, right? Or not World Cup.
Should be FIBA.
Is it FIBA World Cup for basketball?
Yeah, right.
I know it's FIBA something, but I'm just not sure if it's the World Cup. But anyway,
We'll just go.
so the FIBA team.
Yes, it's the FIBA World Cup.
Okay, so the FIBA World Cup team, obviously a lot of young names on there. I think like right now it's projected to have Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Bam, I think is one of the names. I forgot who else is on there, but there's just a lot of young guys. But looking at the team, obviously a lot of young talent on there. This obviously isn't going to be Team USA for the Olympics. It seems to always like completely swap up when that actually shows up. But you're looking at this team, and I mean, you look at some of the teams like Team France, who now you're looking pretty damn stacked. I mean, there's a lot of teams out there that are looking better in comparison to our team. But yeah, actually, now that we're on the topic anyway, I'm going to throw it over to you, Jared. What are your thoughts on like Team USA's makeup with the current roster? And I'll kind of bring up the roster just in case.
Okay, I'll bring up the roster. Thanks. I was actually looking for it, to be honest. That's why.
Yep. I know Paulo Blanchero is another guy who's on there. It was like Anthony Edwards, another one, Brandon Ingram, Jaren Jackson Jr. Those are the mainstays for like the main guys that I think they're looking at starting alongside Jalen Brunson, who's another starter.
I mean, it's just tough in a sense when you think about it, just because like when you think about all those names, who's really a superstar?
Yeah.
Who's really who's really the guy you want to have that ball in their hand? I mean, these are great guys on their team. These are great role players on their team, but it's not like you have, I don't know. I mean, I'm not even going to say LeBron or Steph because they haven't played in forever, but it's like those kind of players where they're just notable and they're superstars, and it's like you want them to lead the face. Like I would even say Jason Tatum. It's not somebody like that where it's like, hey, they've been the face of like the NBA in a sense of their generation, in a sense of what they've brought to this now. And you said what, Paulo Banchero, Ingram,
Paulo Banchero. They also got Walker Kessler off the bench. They got Bobby Portis off the bench. They got Austin Reeves off the bench. That's kind of Cam Johnson's the last name that I'll throw out there. That's I think notable. So
I'll just say this, and I think I hope you guys can attest to it. This is going to be a great team game.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not going to be about a superstar. They're going to be about, because they're all role players. They all know what they can and can't do.
Who's coaching?
They all know.
I just looked at it too, and then I just scrolled.
I just saw it too.
Like, it is. Well, it's still. Oh no! It's actually gonna be Steve Kerr as the head coach.
Okay.
Assistant will be Eric Spoelstra, Ty Lue, and Mark Few from Gonzaga.
Okay. I mean, I think that's
I mean,
I agree with Jared.
I mean, yeah.
There's no superstar, but I think it's going to be one of those. Everybody's going to contribute in their own way, and to be honest, like any team that's built this way, you're just going to ride who's hot.
Yeah,
you're literally just going to find, hey, this person's got it right now. We're going to run the ball through him. Hey, he's starting to struggle. Let's find the next person, and then the next person. And they have all those players that are literally doing it at the NBA level right now, where if they're not hot, like if Brandon Ingram's not hot, they're going to the next man. When Austin Reeves was hot, the ball's running through Austin Reeves. And I really think that's what the makeup is. The best part about it is because you don't have a superstar, because you don't have a big name to fall into, they really have to buy into the team aspect of everything. And I think Steve Kerr's a great person to have at the helm of that, because he'll really instill that team ball aspect. And you have, like you said, people like Jaren Jackson and JJJ. He's like defense, you talked about him all playoffs. You love the way he does.
My favorite player.
And I really think that he'll instill a good part of the defensive side of the ball. And then you'll find somebody like Steve Kerr who can instill the offensive side of the ball, how they want to, what the play sets they want to run, and how they want to run their offense through whoever they want to run it through. Because because there's no superstar too, it doesn't have to have one person with the ball in their hands. They just have to find somebody who's a good facilitator, whether it be Ingram, whether it be Banchero, or even if they start Reeves and the ball runs through Reeves. Like, we know what we've seen it, all them do these things on their teams. And so I think that's it's honestly, I think it's a nice look for the USA, because it's a different look. Not hiding behind superstars anymore, but going back to like how they talked about.
There'll be some good games, that's for sure.
Yeah. And like how they talk about miracles. When they talk about, we talk about dream teams, but it's not really dreams, because nobody gets to dream. Now everybody gets to dream again, because nobody's one superstar where they're using elite super teams. Now it's like everybody.
Is there
really
anybody
has to
in that
play their
list that you think has the potential to be like a superstar in the league? Like
superstar?
I would say off of what you said.
Is there anybody that you like for sure think has like that superstar level
the way
ceiling
the
for.
way the way that he's been playing in I mean, even though through his injuries and everything, I think Brandon Ingram.
Yeah.
I think since he's left the Lakers, I think Nolan said it like, dude, he's just been on a whole different level, leading that team, being the face of that team, and really stepping up to the plate when he gets to play. When he gets to play, that's the hardest part, is when he gets to play, because he's very injury ridden. But
seems
he
to
could
be the theme with a lot of these younger cats. Yeah. But yeah, throwing it over to you, Noel. I mean, just to project its starting lineup right now is Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges. Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Mikal Bridges, Brandon Ingram, and then JJJ. So, I mean, thoughts on the team in general, and then kind of like, is there a guy that sticks out to you that could be like the next big guy for
I'll
the
put my
NBA?
money on Mikal Bridges. I think he's shown it at the second half of the season that he can be the guy for a team. I would say my second option is
Kermit.
Edwards. But for real, I mean, he's showing to be that scoring superstar. You know, not every superstar can be universally well versed in assists, rebounds, and everything, but he can be that guy. You know, and I'm not saying he is on the level, but I see him being kind of like a D-Wade player. Like he's a great slashing into the key. He can shoot the outside shots. He isn't object to pass the ball a little bit. And if he picks up his defense, I think he could be a phenomenal player this league. He's already a great
slated
player.
as most improved. Remember, even though he was, and I think that's really the growth of his game right now. So,
ironically, my pick for most improved is going to be Kobe White, but you know, bias.
I picked Russell Westbrook then.
Yeah, okay. All right.
We're done here.
First of all, if he improves, then he's back to superstar status, because I'm pretty sure he still was like almost a triple-double this year. That would be nuts. You imagine? But yeah, I mean, I think that'll do it for us as far as the transaction period. Some of the stuff that's going into Team USA basketball. Obviously, there is still a lot to be, done in the next few days. Actually, real quick, because I can't believe we didn't even talk about this team at all. The Phoenix Suns, there was like a lot of transactions.
To talk about.
hey, they made some transactions. They did get a lot of guys. Like Yuta Watanabe, I think, was like a phenomenal pickup for them, especially with this team. You're going to need just dudes who just stand there and shoot. In general, I mean, what is the overall feeling for the Suns team? Are you feeling better? Are you feeling worse for them after kind of the opening days of free agency thus far? I'll throw it over to you first, Nolan.
Top heavy team. They picked up some good role guys. But unless everyone kind of buys into the idea that there's only one ball, it could be very messy. And if they don't fix it by the playoff time, I can see that being their downfall. But overall,
I think the one caveat I would give that is I can feel a guy like D-Book and or Bradley Beal truly buying into a playmaking role in this next year. Like if either of those guys can translate sort of like how James Harden translates now, like potentially there's potential.
I would
but
feel
yeah,
it
you're
more
also
on Beal's
right.
side
Yeah.
than Booker, because Booker's still young and not up and coming, but he's still raising his status, right? So I feel like they're gonna trust him with the ball in his hands, but I feel like Bill would be the first one to kind of defer a little bit now that he's on this team.
I wonder who the better 3-point shooter between the two of them is, because technically they're both like they can both bang that three, but I feel like it got to be Book. No,
it might be Book.
Yeah, well,
I feel like he's been more consistently getting it done these past few seasons.
But toward you, Jared, last minute thoughts on the Phoenix Suns? Anything that stands out to you from that transaction period?
Damian Lee. I like Damian Lee.
Signing,
I mean, I think resigning as a great thing for them. It's like you said, though. They just need people who are willing to stand around. And take that fit spot.
Defend and stand around.
Play defense and stand around on offense.
That's what I think is funny is everybody's like, oh, who are they gonna use as their point guard? But I'm like kind of sitting here like it kind of seems like this may be one of those situations where
that way all the other guys can spread the floor and then come to him and find the ball.
Crazy.
Like you could literally put 15 anybody.
Assists.
You can put anybody in the starting lineup. It doesn't matter what position they are. Like I don't know. Yeah.
It's very reminiscent of like when we think about everybody else, not the superstars. It's gonna be very reminiscent of Carmelo in college. Where
That's
the
actually
four
a really
guys
good
just
point.
stood
Yeah.
on the side and Melo did Melo, and then they just had to worry about playing defense and grabbing rebounds.
Yep.
And that's literally what those role guys will do when there's either two superstars on the court, all four of them. Like, it doesn't matter who's on the court. If there's only one, everybody's still gonna just have to do their role.
Very true.
So
That's another.
For me, that's kind of the reminiscence of having that many good superstars as well as needing the ball. And so,
I know that's not something we're doing on any pods coming up because obviously we're in the middle of off season. It's about to get pretty heated up heading into the season, but that's one of those what if scenarios we'll probably hit on a future episode with Melo possibly going to the Detroit Pistons instead of going to the New York Knicks. But anyway, I think that'll do it for us here. Or excuse me, the Denver Nuggets, not the New York Knicks. I think that'll do it for us here on this episode of After the Buzzer. As always, you can check us out down below in the description, whether it's on Instagram, YouTube, the podcast itself. All of our socials are listed below, but you can also follow us on the Poi N Soy podcast on Instagram. Follow us, like some of our content.
Comment.
drop a DM,
share
talk,
comment.
talk to us. Yeah, comment on
Is there
something.
anything you like?
Criticize, let us know.
It's like, we'll take hate comments.
Yeah.
Just
Bring the hate
comment.
comments. We got a lot for you back. Don't worry.
Yeah. I know. We just started
We
getting
got
all
the burners
butthurt after all the
ready.
comments.
This guy said this. No. We're having a pod right now, bro.
It's
a pod.
No. But yeah, I think that'll do it for us here. As always, it has been a pleasure. It's been a joy from all of us here at Poi N Soy.
Good vibes and love, everybody.
Bang, bang.
Shoots.